Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Athlete to Executive podcast with sports business, technology, education, and legal professionals. Our conversations will not only discuss the technical aspects relating to the business of sport, but will focus on the people in sport. Through these talks, we aspire to provide valuable information for those interested in the business of sport, hoping we create positive impact and make a difference, at least in one person's life, no matter who you are. I'm your host, Swati Bojaraj. Today's guest on the Athlete to Executive podcast is Neel Shah. Neel Shah is a sports management professional, educator, life coach, and a published author. He has worked for two decades on the development of football in North America, Asia, and Europe. In his current position with India on Track, Shah runs the Global Institute of Sports Business. Prior to joining India on Tracks, Shah was the CEO of DSK Shivajians and the Liverpool FC International Academy. Before DSK, Shah served as the Director of Libero Sports, where he guided football stakeholders with their investments. And prior to moving to India, he spent 7 years with New York based Major League Soccer, serving as the league's Director of Fan Development. He received his bachelor's degree in business economics with emphasis in sports management from the University of California, Santa Barbara. He then received his MBA in sports management from Seton Hall University, located in South Orange, New Jersey. Neel has written two books: Awakening the Blue Tigers, India's Quest for Football's Holy Grail, and Your Dream Career, How to Choose the One That Fulfills You. Neel, welcome to the podcast. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time to come and share your learnings and journey with us. Thank you, Neel.
Thank you so much, Swati. It's a pleasure to be on.
Likewise. So, Neel, first things first, why sport?
Mm. Why sport? It's growing up. It was really what gave me a sense of real joy, a sense of feeling of like that excitement of just being on the ground with my friends. It was a sense of even excitement to watch a big game that's going on or play sport on Nintendo or PlayStation or something else. And sport, continued as I grew older. It was what made me feel more connected to Americans. Grew up in a Gujarati community in Southern California, so not a lot of Indians in that particular community around us. And I felt a little different than other Americans. So sport gave me a sense of feeling more connected to the place that I was living. It gave my parents an opportunity to feel more connected to America because they joined us on all the weekend tournaments and travel and volunteered at my matches. So sport has really given me so much of life externally and internally. And it was when I was thinking about my job and my career pathway, there was no other kind of sector or aspect of life that I could think of than sport, because it's given me so much. I wanted to give back to this field.
That's amazing. That's amazing, Neel, that you share this. I've kind of spoken to a lot of people within the Indian ecosystem, and also during my master's in sports management here in at FC Barcelona. Right, I met so many people. All of them, when I speak to, they're all working in the business of sport, not because they couldn't find jobs elsewhere, mostly because they played a sport and it just didn't leave them. There's something about it which it definitely builds your character, personality, and so many other things. And I think it's very difficult for people to kind of let go of what sport brought to them, right? I guess that's what I mostly hear. And one of the most popular sayings is also that if you want something, be where that thing is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, be it a job, an internship, you want to meet someone who can give you that job or internship. Tell us about your MLS story. How did that happen? How did you get there? Were you at the spot?
I wasn't originally. I made sure that I became put myself in that spot. I mean, a quick bit about that journey, and I'm very proud of it because it really taught me that you can manifest things if you really put your heart and soul into it. So around 1996, I was 16, and MLS was launched. It was 1996 when the league, really the professional league, a top class professional league in America came out. It was talked about in 1994 when FIFA hosted the World Cup in the US. 95, it was meant to launch, but 96, it was all the pieces were put together. And at 16, as many people in the Indian or Asian communities, the parents are like on your head. What are you going to do in your life? Are you going to be a doctor, engineer? How are you going to survive out there in the world? And I was getting a lot of that in my circles in at home. And, as I looked at the kind of jobs that our Gujarati community members were taking, my family friends, children who are a little bit older than me, I wasn't interested in any of those pathways. And as I said, at that time, sports was my life, but really in a lot of ways, football or soccer was my life. It was what I was excelling at and getting a lot of opportunity with. And then, when it was like Major League Soccer started, here's this sport that I love. And now here's a professional league that's come up. And I'm thinking about the next 6 years of my life of university and the final years of high school. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? After I finish everything, I want to go get a job with MLS. Like, why would I, if I love this sport, why not put myself in the highest or the highest levels of that sport in America, at least? And so I spent the next 6 years fully dedicated to developing myself to be a better football management professional, let's say. I learned communication skills. I learned, of course, sports management, business economics. I started doing internships around my university. I put on soccer camps for corporates. I was learning. And in the meantime, I kept writing to Major League Soccer. Back then, it was old school. So internet was there, but it was like everything was a little slower. You had to write like letters, send them to New York from California, and nobody was really responding. And I got it. The league was young. I was young. I didn't expect them to be jumping at this little like 22-year-old kid saying, "Hey, we got a job for you or an internship." So I decided to do my MBA in sports management, and there was many programs around the US I could have done it, but I chose South Orange, New Jersey, because it was just a 30-minute train ride from New York City, where the league office was. And I got that internship. I mean, I got that placement in that institute, and then I would just go to New York all the time anyway, just to kind of wander around. It's an incredible city. And I used to go across the street from where MLS's office is. It's Grand Central Station. And sometimes I used to just visualize what it would be like if I worked in that office. That's the office, 110 East 42nd Street. And it's just one day I literally just picked up the phone and called 212-450-1200, got the front desk, told my life story to the receptionist, who put me in touch with somebody in marketing. And Mark Noonan, the person who answered, the executive vice president of marketing and events, heard my story. And I just said, look, I want to contribute to this sport. It's done the world for me. I've developed myself to be a good professional at MLS to help it achieve objectives. Please give me an internship. And he did. They gave me an internship in special events. And 3 months later, a coordinator of fan development position came up. I went for it, and they offered me a full-time job. So from 16, dreaming of working for Major League Soccer, to 22, now living in New Jersey and, going for it fully, I was able to get my dream job. And it's something I'm very proud of, because I don't think I was the most qualified, but I was definitely probably the most intentional and driven at that time.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. You just shared the address and the phone number. Is it still the same?
No, the league office, I got to move with it to Fifth Avenue. I think the phone number might be the same. I'm not sure, but
a lot of internship requests might be going on. Hopefully, so
yes.
interesting. Anyway, that's really amazing. How I mean, do you really believe in manifestation and actually things happening? Has this happened in with any other deal that you've worked on, where you're focused and you've I mean, just something thinking of the
yeah, of course. And the book Your Dream Career that just came out last year,
Yes.
it also talks a bit about this. I think it starts with the Paulo Coelho quote about, the universe conspires for helping you achieve what you want. And I truly believe that. I also talk about the secret in that book and the power of manifestation. I do a lot of work in vision boards. I would say every single thing in my life, every major big, whether it's getting married to the person I'm married to, the kind of careers or the kind of jobs I've been able to secure, to even moving to India and doing what I've been able to accomplish in India, it's all something that's kind of been on a vision board or has been designed before it happened, on a piece of paper, in a brainstorming session, in a meditation session. I really believe, and I'm sure I might talk about this later if I get asked about it, but the power of just reflection, deep self-reflection, checking in with yourself, listening to the somatic knowledge and information that's coming from your body, picking up on signs, and then identifying, okay, what is everything telling me? What is the next thing I should do in my life?
Mhm.
And then just taking some courageous steps forward in that process. So, as I said, I mean, moving to India was something I thought about 2 years before it happened, and I put it on some vision boards. I thought about it, I discussed it, I kept kind of creating it in my mind, envisioning what I would like to live in India. And it's not a surprise that 2 years later, I was offered a job to come to India at a unique time in 2009 to help grow
Yes.
football over here. So a lot of these things just start to happen. It seems from the outside that it's happening by chance or by luck, but I really believe that all of these things, yes, there is a certain sense of destiny and fate that come a part of it, and luck, but I think you can increase the odds for all of those things to happen if you do a bit of self-reflection and take some aligned steps forward as well.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So now that you mentioned, like, there are so many questions I want to ask, but one thing that definitely comes to my mind is, I one of the best reads I had last year was Brianna White's "The Mountain Is You." So in
Mm,
this book, she actually speaks about the same thing, right? How the universe conspires to give you everything that you want, and she says it's not really the universe as such conspiring, but you envisioning it and making every decision and taking every step towards that direction. So
yeah,
if the goal is to run 20 kilometers, maybe you take a step every single day or consistently towards that direction. If not 20, maybe you'll do 15, 17 easily. But if you never take that step, it's never going to happen. So that's something she beautifully captured in the book. And that's amazing that you share this. Thank you so much for sharing this, Neil. And you also mentioned earlier that you joined MLS in 2003, if I'm not wrong. And also during my research, I found, I think in 2002 was a time when MLS had like the biggest loss ever from 1996 to 2002.
yeah,
And you joined as a director of fan development. Like, I mean, seems like it is you did really have a very, very, very big responsibility in terms of really, building up the whole league's, fan base and ecosystem and engagement, everything else. Would you like to share about that?
yeah. It was such an interesting time to join the league office because, as you rightly said, 2002, two teams, Tampa Bay Mutiny and Miami Fusion, both it got contracted, meaning that they just were no longer in the league anymore. So the league went from 12 teams to 10 teams. And a lot of people were saying this league is going to fall apart. It's not going to happen. And at that time, most of the MLS teams are playing in these large NFL, American football stadiums. So they
Mhm.
imagine 80,000, 90,000 seat stadiums and only 5,000 people coming. I was in New York City. The closest team for us was at that time the New Jersey Metro Stars. Metro Stars played in Giant Stadium, the Meadowlands, massive stadium. And I'd take my friends sometimes. We'd go to the games, and they'd say, "What are you doing at work all day? There's no fans here. Clearly, you're not that good at your job." And it was just kind of a joke, but it was hard
Yeah.
because a lot of factors were against soccer in America booming. Um, and so those 7 years that I was there was an incredible opportunity to learn. One is to understand patience and strategy, because the people at the top, the owners of the league and the commissioner and the top management, they understood that this is a long vision. This is not like we need to make MLS the best league in America tomorrow. This is going to take 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And let's just start making the right decisions now, putting the pieces together and watch it fold. I think what's one of the things I think India can learn a lot from is patience when it comes to at least the sports industry. Is it's good. These
Mhm.
things take sometimes decades, and it's okay to let it to grow. So as the director of fan development, I spent a lot of times with the clubs helping them build local market fan base, because if you just go out to the market and say, okay, we're a new team, buy tickets for us, a lot of the fan base are like, hey, the first impression is you're selling me something. Give me a reason to want to come. And so we used to try to build meaningful relationships with the local community influencers and the club. And the second thing is just getting more people aware that we have a professional league in America. And yes, you might like Manchester United or FC Barcelona or PSG or whoever it might be, but you can also like your local team. And if you really love this sport of soccer or football, let's work together as partners to help bring it up its profile and awareness in this country. And then just generally working with sponsors, because money is important. So I'd be working with the likes of Panasonic or Budweiser or Gulf Oil or whoever it might be, but like just trying to, or Emirates and Adidas, helping them spend money to also help grow soccer. So they'll put money into the professional league, but then I'll take some of that money and I'll go use it to build programs to get more people connected to the sport in America, which is also their objective as well. I loved it. I loved it because it was an incredible opportunity to learn how to grow a sport that wasn't necessarily the most popular sport in America. It was probably the fourth or fifth, and definitely not respected in every part of America. And I also really loved, it was a sport that I care about, so it wasn't, while the challenges were 100% prevalent every day, it was like when you're doing something you're so passionate about and it actually fulfills you, these are worthwhile challenges. And I understood the importance of putting yourself in situations where you have worthwhile challenges.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So I'd definitely like to get back to what you just shared right now. But
Mhm.
before then, I'd also like to ask you, are there any really interesting fan base, strategies that you implemented, which is really a great success, which literally turned around the ecosystem or at least contributed a lot, if you'd like to share?
Yeah, that's an important question. I think, I just taught this class to my students at GISP about fan engagement
Mhm,
and discussing so many of these different ideas. I'll share two that just come to mind right off the bat. We were
mhm,
trying to get more people from the Hispanic, the Latin American community. Like there's so many people from Mexico and living in America, but also people from Central America and South America. Soccer or football was their number one sport, yet they weren't necessarily feeling that connected to Major League Soccer because they had their own teams in their own countries to root for. So one of the things that we did was we decided, and this was a time where kind of reality TV shows and talent hunts were getting kind of popular. I think maybe Who's Got America's Got Talent or other things were just coming up. So we decided to create something called Sueño MLS, which is basically MLS dream in Spanish, as I'm sure you would know.
yeah.
And we did it with a TV channel called Univision, and it was a sports show on Sundays called República Deportiva, Republic of Sports, hosted by Fernando Fiore, a very, very popular figure who was just somebody a lot of people in America, a lot of people who speak Spanish love. And what we did was we worked with a club called Chivas USA, and we did a
Mhm,
very, very legitimate trial with mostly Hispanics in Southern California to see who can get a contract for Chivas USA. So the winner of out of 2,000 players eventually was this person named Jorge Flores. Jorge
mhm,
Flores was 18 years old. He ended up getting picked to the academy team. Then Thomas Rongen, the coach of Chivas USA, liked him a lot, so he put him on the reserve team. They went down to Guadalajara, played a match. He did really
mhm.
well there. He put him on the first team. So all of a sudden, this boy, he was a janitor in a church and a student, had a lot of family members, and a really interesting story, sad story, really. He's now on the first team of Chivas USA, and Thomas Rongen eventually became the U23 U.S. national team coach.
Wow.
He took him over to the national team. He became part of the U.S. national team, and he even played a few games with the senior national team. So what was happening is that all of a sudden, all these people who normally don't watch MLS were paying attention to this one boy from LA because of this reality show that we created, and that was a legitimate reality show. That was one,
Wow.
and that was really fun. That was actually one of my favorite projects to work on because I saw that we legitimately changed this boy's life and his family's life, and he's still playing in MLS to this day, or he's playing, I think, now in the Mexican leagues. Second one, and this is just a more of a strategy that I think works, and I think we can do this better in India. In the US, there's a lot of youth football clubs, and there's
Yeah.
so many, and these people, the sporting directors of these clubs, these youth clubs, they sometimes have influence over 3 to 5,000 parents and players because they're kind of considered the head of the technical side of these youth clubs, and they think they know a lot about football because they do. They have knowledge of football. So we would actually bring them into our mix, into our MLS family, spend a lot of time with them, and then actually start giving them VIP treatment at matches. Not just VIP like giving them some sort of hospitality suite, but VIP in the sense of having them spend time with the coach of that club, understanding their tactics, giving their say in things. And what was happening is that those people who would normally say, Columbus Crew, not a good team, and that would impact 3,000 people, they would actually say, hey, you know what? They're trying to do some things the right way. And word of mouth is so important, especially when it comes to a trusting environment. And India is very much like that too. And we would really, really just try to bring them in, not try to win them over, but try to make them realize that just because I'm sitting in New York City and in some fancy office and you're sitting in a football pitch in outskirts of Columbus, Ohio, we're on the same team because we both want soccer to grow in America. We just got to figure out ways to do it together. And I think those things taught me the importance of meaningful relationships as it relates to fan engagement and fan development.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Also, it must have been very exciting, and the role as a director of fan development might
Yeah.
have like been a
Yeah.
super hit with Mr. David Beckham
Actually, let
coming
me add
in.
one thing, and it's more of the fun part because it's
Yeah,
like, so all this is said and done is great. You sit
yeah,
and you make all these plans, you come up with initiatives, you get budget for it, you do all these things. And then David Beckham comes in 2007.
yeah.
And it's like everything you've just worked on is minuscule compared to what this one blonde haired, good looking, a fantastic footballer from, England,
Mhm.
from London, when he shows up to play for LA Galaxy in 2007, all of a sudden, all the all hard work that we were trying to do to get anybody to like fill up those seats, it's just like this one guy did it for us. I mean, not to say that that hard work wasn't worth it, but it was just like incredible what somebody like a David Beckham, a Lionel Messi, Frank Lampard and Kaká and all these great players, Ibrahimovic. Uh, you can't run a league only on these star players. Like if you
Yeah.
do, you're going to be a very weak league because once they go, people go. There's a void,
Got it.
a vacuum.
Yeah.
But the power for like a newer league like us, in a lot of ways, the power of these superstars when they come in, it brings a lot of eyeballs to that league, that club that probably weren't coming. And what you hope to happen is that once those players like Beckham go, or even when they're there, once you look around beyond Beckham and you see, wait, this stadium's pretty nice. Oh, those other players around Beckham are also decent players. I thought they weren't going to be that good. Oh, this is a pretty good game. Oh, the fireworks and all the different fun fan events that are going on in and around the stadium. My kids love this, or I'm enjoying this. And oh wow, they communicated well with me after the match, and they got me excited about the next match. That's the hope, that when you bring in a star player, people not just come for him or her, but they stick around eventually. After they might come in for him or her, but they eventually stick around for other people that they see thanks to that initial experience.
Exactly. And also, I'm certain even with him coming in and getting all the eyeballs, it is also very important for the team on the ground to get
Yeah,
all of these projects implemented, right? And
absolutely.
I guess it goes hand in hand. Congratulations on that, Neil. It must have been. How did it feel to be at the center of the growth of a league?
It was incredible. It really, it was pretty much what gave me the confidence to want to come to India to be part of just my little part of doing my part to help grow football here. Because, you know, at that point, Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NFL, the National Hockey League, these were the bigger leagues in America. They still are
Yeah.
very big, but they were pretty established. Like Major League Baseball started like over 100 years ago. Um, Major League Soccer was quite new and very new. And to be able to, we was like a league office of like 40 to 50 people. And it was a big deal to be able to be part of that small group of people at the league, working with our clubs as well, to grow the sport of soccer in America. And I genuinely loved almost
Mm.
every single aspect of that job. And it's one of the things that gives me a lot of confidence to talk to young people, to say that, hey, look, even if he feels a little risky sometimes, even if he feels like you don't know how it's all going to work out, it is such a worthwhile venture. If you believe in yourself and you're willing to work hard, to go for
Yes.
something you really care about versus just taking that first job that somebody offers you. Because for me, I was offered jobs at the NHL and other places because I was at a good MBA and sports business program. I said no to
Mhm.
everything and took an unpaid internship just because I really wanted to be in the place that I knew was going to bring me the most meaning and fulfillment. And it was, even to this day, when I go back to New York, I was just there a few months ago, sitting in that office. And now we just are doing a project with MLS with in GISB. And I think, my gosh, like
Wow.
I'm so happy how the league has grown, and it's just now it's hundreds of people, and everything has changed. But there's a lot of my friends who still are working there from back in the day, and we still reminisce about those early days. When you're starting something early,
Yes.
you feel like you're so intimately involved in every aspect of that project. And I think that while everyone wants to see something flourish and grow and thrive, those lucky ones who were there in the early days are sometimes the ones who really like hold it close in their heart, because it was never just a job. It was like a way of life for them.
Amazing, amazing. So, I can't even imagine. I hope someday, like I get to experience that as well,
Yeah.
wherever I am. But then some of the things that you mentioned throughout the conversation was one, being at the right place, and or making sure you're there at the right place, and the other thing was how a lot of work that you did in the US is also inspired you to move to India.
Yeah.
And the third thing is, like, after you came back to India, you worked in cricket with IPL during Commonwealth Games, if I'm not wrong, with AIFF and several, football
Mhm.
clubs across the world. You were the CEO of, you managed, you worked for several organizations in football and non-football sports as well.
Okay.
How transferable were your skills from the US to India? One, the reason why I'm asking you this is because at the end
Mhm.
of the day, for sport, it's the culture, it's the people, it's the local language, and it is still very. If it's a very smaller league, or
Yeah.
if it's let's say it's just India-based league, right? So if it's when I say India-based, majority of the viewers are still, the fan base is still
Yep.
India.
Yep.
So when there are so many complications, was it difficult? Was it easy? How did it all come about?
Huh. Yeah, it was more on the difficult side than the easy side, for sure.
Thanks.
India in 2000, Indian sports in 2009, and Indian sports industry in 2024 are so different. So when you ask about transferable skills, it's a very valid question. And in my belief in my head, let's say, when I was moving from New York City to India to work in sports, I was at that time moving to Delhi. I generally believe that all of my like learning in how to strategic planning, making PowerPoints in a particular way, to like how organized I was with like meeting agendas and objective setting and project planning and all of that stuff was gonna like blow people away. And my first couple of weeks at that time it was Dentsu. It was a very hardcore advertising agency that was ready to invest big in sports. That's who brought me on. They were like, I remember the president looking at my strategic plan that I put together for our department within the first week of being there, and he just laughed at it. He said, "This is never going to work." Liz, what do you? He's like. So I really had to like unlearn a lot of like some of the things that
Mhm.
I picked up over the many years from my mentors and from my environment, my professional corporate environment in Major League Soccer. Because when I got to India, things were completely different. You have to remember, IPL was only 1 year old.
Yeah.
Commonwealth Games was kind of like in a weird mess trying to get it all together.
Yeah.
I League was really kind of not the most professional league at that time. It was interesting, but not that professional. And now you're just kind of like in the mix of all of this and trying to figure out how can I contribute. And what worked for me was it was all about relationships, perception building, things that at that time in America, what they wanted to see was, of course, numbers. They wanted to understand what is the story, yes, but how is this all going to work from an organizational standpoint? In India, it was more like just getting people to believe in what you're talking about and having and building enough trust and credibility that some part of this could work. So I changed it up. And I just started I started going to all the conferences I could, FICCI conference and sports power conferences and CII conferences. I made sure that I was everywhere. And right off the bat, that helped me at least understand the market better, but also build some credibility because I made sure the American accent at that time helped. I don't think it matters anymore. But at that time, they're like, hey, okay, this guy came from America. He did something at MLS. Just give him a keynote talk. And now I'm speaking and people are coming to me and they're pitching me all these ideas. That helped. The second thing that helped was by complete luck. Before I left the US, the general manager of this team called Kansas City Wizards, now they're called Sporting Kansas City. They're an MLS team. He was really impressed that I was coming out to India, really excited. He's like, wow, that's awesome. A couple of months into my time in India, he said, hey, we're looking to sign a sponsor who's very interested in building their brand in India. And they mentioned that if we signed an Indian player, a footballer, they would be very happy about that. And so can you help me figure out like the best Indian footballers? So of course, Sunil Chetri was one of the three I sent over, got highlight reels. And then we talked to Sunil's agent. They liked Sunil. So they said, hey, let's have him go do a trial. He came over And I was involved with his agent to make sure that happened. And ultimately, they picked Sunil. And he became. It was the first time an Indian footballer has played at least Division One football. Baichang Bhutia had gone to lower division English football at that point, and it was a huge deal. And it was like all of a sudden, an article came out from Kansas City that says Neel Shah, the person behind Sunil Chetri, going to this. And now I was one of many, but I loved it because all of a sudden, all these people are calling me saying, "Hey, can you help our football club out? Can you do this?" And so the first 2 to 3 years was all about understanding the market and building credibility. And then once I started having a couple of more wins in India, everything became easier. In 2024, it's totally different. I would say things are much more like the US than they ever were before in terms of people are professional, things are organized. It could be a lot better, obviously. But companies like JSW and Reliance and India on Track and Baseline Ventures and Rocky Sports and all the ISL teams and all the IPL teams, they're running with a lot more structure, organization, processes, qualified people at that level. And it's much more enjoyable to work in this environment than the wild west it was in 2009, because that's not for everyone. I almost wanted to go back to America. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, it's so hard to get anything done here. But I'm so glad I stuck it out because I learned a lot and I grew thick skin in that process.
I'm so glad to, Neil. I'm sure many, many people in India are glad that you stayed back, with all of these developments. I was just about to ask, did you want to like completely give up and go back? You've already answered. But what made you stay despite wanting to go back? And what made you really want to go? Because also you grew up in the US, right? If I'm not
Yeah.
wrong. And how is it for you in terms of adjusting to a totally different ecosystem, even at a personal level, and your family support? Did you ever express to them you wanted to go back, and were they like, okay, let's go? Or just asking.
It's I like these questions are really, I appreciate them. They're making me think back to like funny, interesting, kind of confusing moments in my life. But there, yes,
Yes.
like when I had, my first trip to India was in 2006. I had never been here before. I came on a backpacking trip to understand, like, just to see what's going on in India. And I came again in 2008. Same thing, backpacking around the country. I was alone. I had just a few family members in Gujarat, but everyone else is in America. And I didn't speak the language. I didn't really grow up in much Indian culture. Like, I have Indian people around me. Of course, I'm Indian, and my mom and dad are, bringing some of the values and culture into the home. But it was a very American community, and all my friends were American. Everything around me was American. So coming to India was kind of like a very, very foreign experience for me in every which way. And after the second trip, I had spent a lot of time with the All India Football Federation. A person named Sukhvinder Singh at the time, he was the head of marketing of AIFF at the time, and he was the first person I met in 2 trips that I really felt like, hey, we're speaking the exact same language. He has the same optimism and enthusiasm and energy that I do about the future of building football in India or in these markets where that's not the number one sport. And I really appreciated him. And I remember after a long conversation with him, but also other experiences in India, I went back to New York, and my heart was still in India while my body was in New York. And I was like, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm in this amazing city, but my heart is there. And when I eventually got offered a job to come back to India and live full time, it was kind of like one baby step at a time. Like, each step, I didn't really believe it was going to happen. But finally, when I resigned from Major League Soccer, and like I had signed the contract with Dentsu, I was like, wow, this is happening. And when I told my family before I signed the contract and everything, they were like, this is ridiculous. Like, what are you talking about? You're going to India. You've been there a grand total of 6 weeks in your whole life. You don't know anybody there really, except for like some family members. You're just going to show up. What are you going to do there? Like, are there proper offices for like professional sports? And I said, I don't know. I'll figure these things out. I think I'm going to do all right over there. The first year was hell. Like, my body just did not handle being in India in a lot of ways. I was in the hospital a lot. My stomach was all messed up. And professionally, things were going up and down. And a lot of people in my family were saying, it's time to come home now. Like, you tried it. It didn't work out. You should come back to America and go back to your old life or do something. And I just remember realizing that there's not a single part of me that wants to go back at this point. Like, I came for a reason, and I'm gonna go all in. And like I said, I'm, a lot of other people might have gone back. And I'm not saying I'm more brave or courageous. I think maybe I'm stupider. I just said I'm just not, or maybe I'm more stubborn. I'm not going back a failure. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to do things that are going to make a difference and leave some legacy in this country. And over the years, things, India has an incredible warmth to it. People are like, especially if you're alone and you're kind of trying to figure things out, people just like, I got invited to a million weddings. I went to so many people's homes for Diwali and Holi. I came here for sports, but I found like family, I found spirituality. I started traveling all over India for work. And I realized I love traveling here. There's such a beauty in, and there's so much adventure of travel. And then when I started traveling to the West to speak at conferences about Indian sports, I started going to Soccer X or going to different events in America. I realized, wow, like in a short time, I'm getting positioned as some voice of Indian sports. Not that I was an expert, but they were giving me that some platform. And I'm thinking, I'm actually, and then all of a sudden, like Manchester United's and Barcelona's and Liverpool's, they were saying yes to meetings where maybe if I was the director of fan development of MLS, they're saying, why am I meeting this guy? I can meet the commissioner. But all India, I'm representing a country of 1.3-4 billion people. I'm also representing a huge market potential and business potential for all these international leagues and clubs. And they've heard that, hey, this guy's doing some decent stuff in sports. He came from America. All of a sudden, I realized my stock went way up being in India than it would be sitting in America, just being another employee at Major League Soccer. And I was like, all these realizations started hitting me, saying that it was the best decision I could ever make in my life to come to India when I did come. And now it's been 15 years and I've, been able to do things that I never in my wildest dreams that I could do, and be a part of projects and people that are just like blow my mind every day. So maybe not everyone would have done this the way I did it, and maybe it's not for everyone, and I totally accept that. But I'm so thankful that I didn't take the road that would have been easier and just get back on the plane, go back to Major League Soccer with my head between my legs and saying, please take me back. I messed up. It didn't work out, because I would have missed a lifetime of memories and opportunities that I've gotten over the last almost decade and a half.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much for sharing this, Neil. The mere fact that you came from the US to India, having not lived in India at all, and it's a different, right? Like, for example, I lived all my life in India. And
Yeah.
then, except for my student exchange or like for travels, I've never been lived in another country. So
Mhm.
now I moved to Spain and now I'm here for like a few years now. And if I move back to India, it's not a big change for me. It's
Yeah.
just like a few years of break away from the country. But in your case, you lived in another country, you grew up there, and you visited just for 6 weeks and came back. That in itself is like something that not many people would do, something that you did. But also during your response, you just said, you've done things that you never thought you would be able to do. Can you just like give a few examples of what these things are? And
Yeah. Wow. Um, hmm. Okay. I mean, the first one that comes to mind right now, and it's the most recent.
yeah,
Well, it's almost the most recent one is setting up GISB. See,
yeah,
it was for me, that is such, like, it's beyond a dream come true, because I never, like, I was a hardcore football person, but what happened was that when I was in Pune, running the professional team there, I was on the sidelines teaching at an MBA in sports management program at Symbiosis. It was a great experience. I have utmost gratitude to the people at Symbiosis who had faith in me to actually be a faculty and put together, courses for their students. And it's still a program I have high respect for. But at that time, I recognized two things. One, I really enjoy education. And two, I think we need to build more industry design sports management institutes in India. And there wasn't really any at that point. And somehow I couldn't, when you get an idea in your mind, you can't stop thinking about it. It's like an itch, you can't stop scratching it. I once I get something like that, I think about it all the time and I keep working on it. So I worked on this business plan for an industry design institute. And thankfully, Gaurav Madhuwal, who is the FC Pune City president at the time, and somebody who's also very passionate about education, we got together and decided to build this together. He really supported it financially and with a lot of his knowledge and wisdom and context. And now we're 6 years old as an institute, or five batches of cohorts have graduated. And I feel like when I go to that campus now, it's a huge organization. I'm just one person of many there. Before I was like the founder running every aspect of it. And I just feel like I can't believe I helped. Like I conceptualize this on like a lot of car rides from the Simbi campus to my house in Pune, and I put it on a business plan. I found some place in Mumbai to build it, and here it is. And when I take my students to England for the Premier League visit, or we have faculty coming from University of Massachusetts, I think I'm so happy that I was able to like have my thumbprint on this project. And I know that in America, if I try to one day wake up and set up a sports management institute, it would be hard because there's so many. It's like an already saturated marketplace, and now to do it just like that with the kind of like dynamic nature that we have at GISB, it would be difficult. So that's one right off the bat that just feels extremely like I feel pretty good about. And generally, what I would say is that one of the parts of my job that wasn't really a part of my job, but it was kind of an extension of just what I was doing in India, is I was visiting a lot of sport for development organizations like My Angels Academy or Oscar or Slum Soccer or Yuva. And just, I think when you live in America and you're kind of growing up in grew up in Orange County, California, in probably a very well-resourced environment, affluent neighborhoods. And when you think of India, you think of these kind of like, people think of these sometimes villages where there's really incredible talent and really warm, beautiful people. And if you can just visit those villages and be able to support or contribute in some way, it would feel like, you're doing something good in the world. And I know that it's a very slumdog millionaire way of looking at India, but the reality was that us sometimes naive Americans think about things that way. But when I got to India, I also got to travel to a lot of these villages and work with people in those communities. And beyond just the kids, I was so amazed by the administrators, the people who've devoted their lives to living in these really sometimes difficult places and fully committed to helping those kids grow as people. And I got to spend a lot of time, not just with them, but financially supporting them, giving them opportunities to go to France or other places to play football through my contacts. And it just like, I could see that, like, how when you can see you're directly changing somebody's life through your efforts, like as a fan development director or as a league office person or as a consultant of an agency, you don't always feel like you don't see all your direct impact because you're making PowerPoints and you're pitching things. Yes, you're bringing money into the industry, you're doing good work, but I really get excited about the direct impact. And when I see my students at GISB making it out in the industry, when I knew that they were in jobs they hated before they joined GISB, or I see some of the boys and girls that I've been able to support to go to Europe or other places to play some, get exposure in their lives, I feel so like, it's like a life worth living. We just talked about it. My dad passed away about a month ago. And, I think about the best things my dad did in life. He did so many great things, but it's like the people that he actually helped set up businesses for, the people he funded to come to America, the people that he gave a home to and shelter to when they needed some support mentally and physically and financially when they got to America to like settle down. Those are his trophies, and those are the things that I think most people acknowledged him for at the memorial services, is just how much the impact, the transformational impact he had on people's lives. I think I've done 1% of that, but just I think coming to India has given me more opportunity to do that than maybe in America. I could still make a difference, but I think somehow I don't know, I'm uniquely positioned to make a bigger difference in India, and I'm taking advantage of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about your loss, Neel, and thank you for doing this in such a short frame of time since this happened. Thank you. And also, wow, that sounds very exciting. I was also thinking about GISB when you were asking. How important do you think sport education is? When I say sport education, not education related to practicing a sport or playing the sport, but everything associated with sport.
Yeah.
And where is India with regards to that at this point in time?
Yeah, I feel like it's I wouldn't call it essential, but I'd call it extremely important sports management education. And I'll explain why. The easy answer is to say, if you want to be a doctor, you got to go to med school. If you want to be a lawyer, you got to go to law school, right? And in some extent, Yes, I do agree with that. If you want to be a good sports management professional, you should study sports management. You should learn about the industry that you're stepping into. And I do believe that. Um, does every single person who wants to be a professional in sports business have to do a sports management postgrad? No, not necessarily. That being said, what is the positives of a quality sports management program? Right off the bat, it gives you an understanding of the sporting ecosystem because most people, when they think of sports, they're thinking about it from what they're consuming. Okay, I'm consuming watching a match. So sports is people playing. I'm watching the coaches. Sports is like what's going on with the technical side. Or I watch Jerry Maguire or some movie about agents. Oh, sports is like the agency world. Or you play FIFA on PlayStation or whatever. Sports is gaming. And you're not recognizing there's like that lacks and hundreds of so many jobs in sports that you just don't see on a day-to-day basis across finance and marketing and legal and a broadcast. And even in that, there's just so many different divisions and dimensions of the industry. And so right away, you're an industry, I mean, a sports management institute or a program is giving you exposure to all of that. So that's one, and that's really important. Is you might as well understand the industry that you're getting into before you fully immerse yourself in it. Two is that this industry is still about network and contacts, and I don't like to say like I call it relationships. So if you're on the outside and you're just emailing people or writing on LinkedIn, you can get in a little bit, but you'll probably get in like this much versus this much. A good program will give you a lot of opportunities to meet people who work in the industry. So that's very important when you want to get a job or whatever it might be. So that's two. Three, and something I speak about intensively, like all the time, and I wrote the whole book about this, about your dream career, is most people say I want to work in sports, and I say why? I'm passionate about sports. Great, but they're not recognizing that like just any job in sports won't make you happy. Like I
Yes.
know that if I got a job in let's say in the finance department of a basketball team, I don't know if I'd be that happy. It's sport.
Yes.
It's somebody's dream job. It's not my dream job. Definitely, my dream job was coordinator of fan development or director of fan development of Major League Soccer. So, in all the jobs I've had since then. So it's never just about getting a job in sports. It's got to also be about understanding what you like about the industry, which part, what job you'd be good at, which job would have a sense of purpose or meaning that you're willing to do even when the chips are down, you're getting paid crappy or whatever. You have to work 7 days a week. It's in what a 12 to 24-month program provides you is a little bit of time to start discovering yourself as it relates to the industry. And that is key as well, because you don't want to be somebody who just gets a job, realize you don't like it, leave the sports industry because you hate it, or just jump to another job because you're desperate for something else. Not like that, and just keep becoming like some sort of popcorn bouncing around. It's more important that you have some clarity on where you want to go, and mentorship and guidance and exposure provides that. So I would say that these three are really important, which is what good sports management programs offer. Now in India, for the longest time, I think sports management institutes were more leaning too heavily on the academic side. Um, we were providing degrees in sports management in India, but not necessarily real world experience in sports management. What GISB did when we launched in 2018, and I think now we have other good programs that have come up, is lean more on the industry connect side while keeping the academics important. And we I feel like GSB launched was the front runner in that, but then you have other programs who've now also done that as well. And I'm very happy to see this because we also run sports companies, and when we hire people, we're not just looking at the degree. We're looking at what they know, who they know, their professional skills, their exposure, and just a lot of other things that have nothing to do with that degree, and and or academic knowledge of the industry and theory. So the more we can provide the students with that sort of experience and rigor, the better off they're going to be when they join our companies as well.
Amazing, amazing. How is the situation of jobs in the sports business ecosystem in India? I'm on some WhatsApp groups, multiple WhatsApp groups, India based, and in all of these groups, I see a lot of internship posts coming in, job posts coming in, and everything else. So, but what is your view been on the ground, either in football or outside of football?
Yeah. The industry is
Mhm.
100% looking for qualified professionals. The job market is definitely expanding. I think the originally when people think of getting a job in sports, their mind goes to, which is not not it's not incorrect. They want to get a job with ISL teams or IPL teams, or they want to work for like the NBA or something else. And that's fantastic. If you want to, you should go for it. But I think what people are missing is that there's a lot of really good jobs at like facilities, turf companies, or like companies like Huddle or other sports tech companies that are providing services for the amateur sports market. There's a lot of really good jobs at, let's say, a Sport 18 or a Sony or a Star. There's jobs that are in market research companies around sports or data analytics companies. There's lots and lots of jobs at companies like Decathlon Sport or Decathlon itself, or like Dream 11 or Sports Interactive, Engage, these digital marketing agencies. So it's like, and even like a lot of our students go work in digital marketing because they're good at it. There's good opportunity. And I talked to them and they said, yeah, my clients are Chelsea, or my clients Arsenal, my clients, Punjab Kings 11 or Gujarat Titans, or the this particular individual we're helping Neeraj Chopra do this. And I'm thinking, wow, that's awesome. Like, how exciting is that? They'll be going out to like the draft in Dubai for the IPL or doing whatever it might be. And I'm so proud of them because they're in it. They dreamed of working for an IPL team and they didn't realize they can still do it while being part of an agency rather than actually going straight to that team. And speaking of agencies, there's India on Track and Meraki Sports and Baseline and Cornerstone. So they're all they're all expanding right now. Like the sports industry is in an expansion time, and because of that, we keep looking to hire more people, and so we get job descriptions every single day from companies looking to hire. So I have a when we take people on and offer them admission to GISB, the first question that every parent asks us or student, what am I going to get a job after this program? What kind of job am I going to get, and how much money am I getting? And these are all fair questions, and we have to look them in the eye and say, if you work hard, there are definitely good jobs out there, and the jobs ideally are jobs that you want to do, not just any job. And these are jobs that are paying you enough to justify the investment you're making in this institute, and more importantly, helping you get a quality of life that you're proud of as well. So 2010, I would say everyone should just go abroad and study sports management, wait till things get better, and then come back. But 2024, it's completely different. There's a lot of jobs in the market.
Amazing, amazing. So, what's your advice for these young aspirants who are looking forward to start a career in sports management, right? Because a lot of time when I speak to people, because I'm right now, I studied from ISDE, and a lot of people who are aspiring to apply for ISDE write to me and they request for a call. I get on a call, I speak to them, and one of the first things they say is, "Okay, if I graduate from ISDE, I'll get an internship, and that internship will turn into a job. Would it be
Yeah.
easy for me to get a job in Europe?" I am like, it's not so simple. There are many, 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 many factors that come into being: your nationality, your visa, your skill sets, and what kind of job do you want, what is available, and hundreds of other things. So,
Mm.
I mean, it might open a small window to many, many opportunities, and it depends on what you make the most, right? So, what would I mean? This is I thought it was very for me in my head. I thought everybody would know this basis the conversations. To me it comes across not really. So
Yeah.
what would thoughts or suggestions be for many, many people who are
Mm.
looking for a profession?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm also quite shocked. I think I'm on a call once or twice, sometimes more a week, just with people from abroad who study sports management, who just like assuming they're going to get a job and they're struggling. And yeah, so right off the bat, I would say the first thing, and it's something I mentioned earlier, and if you hear me in other settings, I'll sound like a broken record, but I say, like, know thyself. Understand, realize that while you might see on social media or LinkedIn, like all these people working in all these different fields, and they may be like, and you might be envious of them, or you might be, or like jealous, or whatever it might be. Realize that you're geared for your own journey. Like each one of us is uniquely wired for things that we're uniquely wired for. And the important thing is just to first figure out what a little bit about who we are and what we might be good at, what we really love in the industry. So know thyself, and that can be done through coaching and mentorship. It can be done with assessments like the Clifton Strength Finder or the Berkman or other personality or strengths assessments. And that can just be done by, in a sports management program, seeing which internships or which projects or which people, which faculty really light you up, which subject matters are you most excited about talking about. Because right off the bat, it's important for you to know what is it that you'd be good at, what is it you want to do, and then be able to communicate about that as well. So that's one. And this is a lifetime's journey. You're going to keep learning more about yourself as you go. The second thing is 100% start some project like in alignment with something that you are interested in. So I'm giving a perfect example, what you're doing right now, from the athlete to executive, this podcast. Like I know you're an experienced person. You also have a very good education under your belt. You've had a lot of work experience in your life. Yeah. And this time, like, I'm getting to know you from a couple calls, from the emails back and forth, and now this conversation I'm having with you right now. In this process, you're not only learning about, the industry from me a little bit, but you're more importantly, we're connecting with each other. And more importantly, after all of this, say, you're trying to get a dream job with some organization or do something, even if that job is not aligned with this particular podcast's theme, just the fact that you've done this podcast would make people feel much more excited about who you are and the kind of commitment and discipline you have to actually get something going, instead of you're not just somebody who talks about it. So with my students, I always ensure that they're doing some professional projects and some personal projects that are beyond just the regular academic pedagogy of the program or the regular curriculum. It opens up a whole world for them, and it gives them like ways to be productively use their time. But more importantly, when they're going in for interviews or conversations, if you were like a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, didn't have as much experience, did something like this, maybe did it 10% as professional as you're doing it right now, but still put a lot of heart into it. And then maybe, I saw the recording. I thought you did a really good job. You marketed our interview well. And then you came back to me and you said, hey, look, I'm coming back to India. I would really like to work in professional football. Can you help me get a job? Even if I haven't worked with you for a lot of time, but just seeing how you did this project together, it would make me feel that much more excited to pick up the phone and start calling a lot of my contacts in the industry and saying, hey, Swati, I don't know her work ethic. I mean, I don't know her professional skills as much, but I did a couple of projects with her, or I did this interview, and I just found her to be somebody who would add a lot of value into organizations that she could join. And can you give her a shot? If you just wrote to me on LinkedIn with the best message without doing all of this, I may not give that person a shot as much. So I think and it doesn't have to be a podcast. It could be writing articles. It could be creating some sort of like app. It could be doing some TikToks, whatever it is, something that is actually, professional project. And the final thing I'll say is just refine your communication skills. And that could be writing communication skills, that could be spoken communication skills, but continually to become better communicator. A lot of people are not, some people are very comfortable with speaking in writing, and some people aren't, and that's okay. But this industry is a people to people industry at the end of the day. So if you're not the most comfortable communicator, you would want to take a public speaking class, or get a coach. And something, I was a very shy person when I was joining Major League Soccer. I didn't project myself. I didn't express myself very well. So I asked them, can they put me in a public speaking course at NYU? Can they pay for it? Because I didn't have the funds to pay for it. And thankfully, MLS paid for my NYU continuing education public speaking class. And that's one of the reasons I was able to like become more confident in speaking, because I actually invested in my time and energy to actually become better at this. And sometimes you don't want to wait till you work hard, but you're not getting opportunities to grow because people aren't able to connect with you as well.
Thank you very much, Neil. I mean, I think you kind of covered almost all aspects that somebody could, kind of, somebody is required to focus on to make
Mhm.
a career, whether in sport or outside of the sport. Know yourself, I guess, right? I think
Yeah.
that's most important. And as you rightly said, that's like the most difficult journey out there. I mean, it's a lifetime's journey, as you rightly said. Yes, yes. So,
Mhm.
last question. I know we're almost close to the end of the time we scheduled. One last question. This is something that I ask all of our guests, right? One of the things most of the people I've kind of received very mixed responses for this. Um, there is this sentiment in India that India is going to be the future sporting hub. One.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what I want to understand is this sentiment can be in terms of consumption of, sporting content or fan base from local, national to international teams, technology in sport, or even, athletes winning medals at our international competitions, right? Do you think this is just a sentiment, or is there anything credible that backs this sentiment? Just wanted to see
Mm.
your thoughts.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to frame that question. Um, when we say India is going to be the sporting hub, I would say that internationally, is India going to be the sporting hub? No, not for a while. Is it going to be a sporting hub of Asia? 100%. And I'll share a couple of reasons why I feel that. Um, you know, are we even close to it right now? No, not at all. Like, we're so far away. But do we have potential to become that sporting hub of Asia? Yeah, 100%. And why is, like, the government, the fact that even just that small thing of that small but big thing of saying we're going to bid for the 2036 Olympics, and this belief that it's going to happen. I just came back from Gujarat the last few days, and there's already this excitement to invest in infrastructure and get ready for a potential Olympics in Gujarat or some other part of India. I feel that the IPL was such a unique, and it's such an anomaly, like how Lalit Modi and BCCI and everyone is able to figure out how to, like, create this behemoth, with the passion, on top of the passion for cricket in India, and all the money that's being invested in broadcast rights that's being spread across the franchises now, that's being reinvested into the industry. And I think you're gonna see a lot more of the fruits of that investment take off. The fact that, like, Pro Kabaddi League took off, it shows, now Coco, and you're seeing with all these different sports like volleyball and others, there's more confidence to have leagues around these non-traditional sports, which is a nice thing. And then I do really believe that India is like a sports tech hub of Asia, where you're going to see a lot. There already is a lot of sports tech startups that have come up. What Dream 11 being valued at 1.8.5 billion. It's a huge deal because that's giving confidence to not just other startups, but that's giving confidence to investors who are putting money into these other startups as well. And I was just with our chairman, and he's invested in a paddle company. And paddle's that sport that's very big in Spain as well. It started in Spain, I believe. And you know, every space in Mumbai is now being taken up by paddle and football turfs and pickleball and all these things. Now, these are like pipe dreams when I first got to India, and all of a sudden, India is completely changing. Something I say is that in America, something that can take you know it can take 20 years to build something, but in India, if you have the right alignment, the right excitement, the right stakeholders who believe in it, something that would take normally in a developed market a long time because you need to build it slow and slow, in India it can actually be the opposite. It can happen really fast. When Uber comes in, it's slow, 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 then it takes off. you know Flipkart and Amazon and all these things, it's slow, 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 and then the infrastructure is built and it just spreads like wildfire. That's what's happening with these turf parks and all of these things that are going on. So with what Odisha did with sports, all of a sudden Tamil Nadu and Gujarat and other states are like, hey, we want to do what Odisha is doing. It looks great, so let's do it ourselves. And now everyone gets all in on that as well. And finally, beyond esports and gaming, but all these international leagues, like Major League Baseball has an office in India, La Liga has an office in India, Premier League will eventually set up an office in India. City Football Group has operations full time in India. They're talking about Formula One coming back. You're going to see many other, leagues. NBA has an office in India, WWE. They're all trying to figure out how to set up their shop in India and build a business over here. So that's also happening as well. So I know it's a long-winded answer to your very easy question, but I really believe that there's a tremendous future. But I also feel like our governance needs to get a lot better. I feel like the sustainability of sports leagues outside of cricket is really not very a lot to write home about. It's not very, like ISL and others are not necessarily, especially the bigger ones. It's invest a lot for operations and players. They're not they're not the most sustainable right now. And then finally, I think our facilities, ground level, good. The bigger facilities are not world class at all.
Mhm.
The fan experience of going to a lot of these stadiums is still not even close to what you see in the West. And I think that we can start building better stadiums over time, which I think will happen as well. So we have ways to go, especially on the governance front, but there's a lot of positive movement to give us a little bit of optimism of the future of sport in India.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, like, definitely one of the sporting hubs of Asia. I think you rightly kind of captured given the current situation. Like as you were speaking, I said I know it was the last question. Just one last one because
Sure.
I really need to ask. This discussion has been so great. One of our guests on the podcast, when we asked him, "Do you think India is ready for the exact same question?" and about how the sentiment about India hosting the Olympics in 2036, is that a possibility? Is India ready? Right? So his response was, everything else can be managed, but human resource. Is India human resource ready? He was like, he was optimistic about everything, but he was like, human resource is one thing we still haven't tapped in India when it comes to sports. So what do you think about this? Because you're also creating a lot of human resources in the sense of like qualified professionals through
Yeah.
GISB. So
Mm.
what's your thought on this?
I, the way I look at this is that I agree and I don't agree. What I mean by that is that will by 2036 we'll have, that's still 12 years away, and we'll have a lot of time to give exposure to enough people in India to be able to go out and even get some of the experiences they need, whether it be mega events in India or going out to other mega events and getting that. Like, and this is what's happening with AFC in football. You'll see it. A lot of our top people, they get sent to places around the world and they get that experience, and they come back to India and they bring that here and they train other people. Second thing is that a lot of times with something like FIFA World Cup and the Olympics is that they bring staff over as well. So it's not to India and they like the IOC or FIFA and says, you guys run everything. A lot of my friends were part of the teams to organize the FIFA U17 World Cup in India, which was a big event. And they were running marketing, they were running ops, they had but then a week or so before the event or a couple of weeks out, FIFA sent their whole teams to kind of take on a lot of it, because the Olympics or a FIFA World Cup, whatever the age group is such an important event that there can be very few flaws, and you can't leave the host country to run every single aspect of it. The international bodies has their own people coming in, ensuring the SOPs are being followed. So I wouldn't worry too much. I think our biggest challenge with hosting a Olympics in India is the amount of money that would be invested in facilities and operations and all of that that's not going to other places. I think and are we going to be able to utilize all of those facilities to the best of our ability when it comes to the programming, the sustainability, and all of that, which you see in places like Brazil and South Africa, sorry. They've struggled with maintaining all of the facilities that are built for the FIFA World Cups, and it hasn't been a great story after 2010 and 2014. So, sorry, 2014. So, I hope that India doesn't fall into that category where we've just invested thousands and thousands and thousands of crores on this one event, so we look good internationally for that 1 month or whatever amount of time the Olympics is, and then everything just kind of falls apart afterwards. That's it. But otherwise, I think human resource, we're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you because, like, just a little understanding of the ecosystem. I think a lot of countries have also incurred a lot of debt and losses
Yeah,
post hosting the Olympics because they've not been able to utilize the resources created for that purpose. So it's it's interesting. I mean, I think it'll be amazing if we can actually not only host but also eventually innovate an efficient way of utilizing it for further sport development or other development in the country. We should crack
100%.
that, I guess. I mean, I know it's
I
all
think
optimistic, futuristic, but then
I think so. I think Gujarat, if it is ends up being in Ahmedabad or Gujarat, I feel like there'd be enough startup energy and I am Ahmedabad people and other people who are really like a lot of consultancies like Ernst and Young and others who are on this right now to would hopefully figure out these things rather. So like, it's not like the Commonwealth Games where we get it and we just throw it together and then it just becomes kind of like a madhouse. I would hope that we build up to it, and with Reliance and Adani Group and other big stalwarts that are like big companies that would be supporting this whole journey. The hope would that there would be a proper plan in place for our legacy of this infrastructure, rather than just being like, all right, we're done. Let's hope for the best, because I just think that would be sad for everyone involved.
yes, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all these, Shah, Neil. I'm also very excited that we were able to end this conversation on a very positive note.
Mhm.
Thanks a lot for taking out the time and doing this.
Thank you. I really appreciated the questions. They were helping me really connect with my life's journey and some of the things I've done in the country and in the industry, and I appreciate that. So yeah, good luck with the podcast, and looking forward to seeing more great interviews from your side.
Thank you. Thank you.